that were taken to the jungle and basically explore and learn about dialects. So they wrote it down dialects that we didn't know, only by oral way of talking, but not like in written. So Quito was like the main city for that. So this is why we had so many expeditions into the Amazon basin that started here. So the church, in some way, it is, well, most of the art and architecture definitely came from Europe. And this is a copy of a church that is in Rome. It's called Jesuit. It says one exactly the same. See, same distribution of a Latin cross church. You have names on the sides, and take a look at the center of like these, the center of these corridor here, where you see all these designs that were you talking about. And this is more design from the Moors. On the sides, you have more like enriched with it was Baroque. So the Moors don't have much of details of flowers or people, anything like that. It's more angles, distribution of angles and things like that. So this is a Moors design main entrance to the church. See? So the arches, all the artwork took them almost 150 years to complete it, the church. Now, everything that shines gold, it is a 24 karat gold, but it's about 90 kilos of gold. It's a lot, it's still a lot. But the way they did the gold is put it between two pieces of leather, they hit it with a hammer until it become very thinner, like paper, like thinner than aluminum foil, but thinner than that. And this is how they put it around the altars and all the elements you see on a gold collar. Now, the altars on the sides were basically paid by the guilds, that in Spanish is called cofradías. If you had a chance to go to Europe, especially in Spain, in France, in Italy, like the cofradías were like the most important members that will complete and actually give work for free to the church. See, we have, for instance, cofradías or silversmiths, or the stonemasons. These guys will carry stones from the quarries into the church just for the reverence of Virgin Mary or something specific. So they basically give their lives to the church in some way. And this is one of the reasons here we also have this sort of recreation of the altars of a particular saints and virgins, where these guilds were very devoted about it. See, that's the reason why the churches in Quito, in some other regions, are so rich. See, in that sort of way. Now, the main altar that we have here is the second altar. Right in the back of this one is another one that it was carved on a brick, but later they changed it to this more like a Baroque style, which is very similar to the facade of the church. See, when we go outside, I'm going to stop so you can have a look of the on both. So it's very similar. It has niches, Solomon columns, and these sort of elements in a definition of architectural or designs. Now, in the altar, we have is a copy. See, it's actually very saint over there. The name is Santa Mariana Jesus. It was actually considered the first saint of Ecuador. So she's buried over there. Now, why she's buried in the altar is because in the 1960, we had a sort of like the Pope tried to make the masses consecrated. So they need like a relic. Churches need a relic for the mass to be consecrated. See, not many churches, of course, there is hundreds and thousands of churches around the world, Catholics, that don't have any relics. So they were aimed to find one. And the Jesuits here, they thought that like these saints will be important to be in the altar. That's the reason it is there. Of course, later the Vatican decides to abolish this law because it didn't make any sense to have a relic in every specific temple or church, right? So that's the reason why. Now, it's very interesting how, like, in this church, we have niches from different orders of saints. See, in those 4 niches, you have in the upper left, that's Loyola. In the bottom left is that's Santo Domingo. Upper right is Pedro Nolasco from the Mercedarios. And the bottom, that's San Francisco of Assisi on the bottom right. Each of them has like something we call iconographic symbols. You can identify them by the way they dress, the things they have in their hands. There's San Francisco has a stigmatas and a skull. So those were one of the elements in the iconography, religious iconography, will like mainly use it. See now. The School of Art that started in Quito, it was in San Francisco. See, this is 1535 when Fray Rodolfo Rique starts the founding the schools of art, and here is when they brought all these kids of the local indigenous, of the leading indigenous, to learn how to paint, read, and write. And imagine by 1605, you're going to have like a good number of people with a lot of skills that contribute to the construction of temples like this. So La Compañía is still in active mass in church, mainly on the Sundays. Today, basically, in a way, to support the keeping the church is the church maintenance effective. But normally, there is a lot of concerts and weddings. The first moment when they started to restore this church was in 1894. 1987, when we had an earthquake, it damaged a lot of the churches. For instance, this one, and the elements, architectural elements inside these arches, we have steel now. Before it was only mortar, stone, wood, but now there are reinforced bars of the steel to support the building that is from the 1600s. Imagine like we live in the Circle of Fire of the Pacific, so there's a lot of tremors and earthquakes, and especially in the 1700s, there were many different earthquakes registered in that century. So this is how they keep the church. So there is being a lot of restoration process. One of the reasons these altars look so bright is because there was a fire during the restoration process. And of course, they have to replace the entire altar. That's why they look so brand new, goldish. So, there's so many different elements in it, like paintings from different artists. Most of the sculptures are anonymous, so are the paintings, because this is a gift to God. Like, people don't have the school of learning about art, but never sign it. Very few actually sign it. We are a tribute to a lot of different artists because of the techniques they use it, or the elements they use it to paint. Okay, so because they study in nature what sort of things they can use it to do certain colors, like pearl white or blue or red and things like that. So this is one of the things that happened in those days.